Hey guys, just got back from a walk. It's 10 on the dot, so I've got ESPN Plus on. I think the prelims are going to be kicking off here in a second, but I just wanted to give my picks for the main card for tonight's event on ABC real quick. Obviously, headlined by Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar. I think, all right, let's just run through the fights from top to bottom, right? The first fight is going to be Punahele Soriano versus Dusko Todorovic. If I'm mispronouncing these guys, I apologize, but I think this is going to be one of those fights where Dusko is probably going to have to push it up against the cage a little bit, negate some of the power of Punahele. Not that Dusko doesn't have power of his own. A little bit of length, I think, over Punahele, but I think in this fight, Dusko is going to have to probably make it dirty up against the fence, make it kind of a grappling affair and land his shots there. And as he kind of wears on Puna and exhausts some of that power, then he can start to come on stronger later in the rounds. I like Soriano in this fight, though. I just think that Punahele is going to march forward, sit down on his punches, and I think he's going to assert himself early on. And I don't think he's going to let himself get bullied like that. If he does let himself start getting pushed up against the cage, I think it's going to be problems for Soriano. But I like Punahele Soriano over Dusko Todorovic in this fight. This next one, Joaquin Buckley versus Alessio Dakirico. Alessio Dakirico is in a rough patch right now. He's on like a 3-fight losing streak. Meanwhile, I think Buckley's on a 2-fight winning streak. Obviously, had that spectacular spinning knockout kick that he had over. I don't even know what the fuck you want to call it, where the guy caught the kick. He touched like Taekwondo shit, kicked him in the face, knocked him out cold. Can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. But anyway, I like Buckley in this fight just because he's riding some momentum right now, and I think he has a little bit of a power advantage over Alessio. And Alessio is one of those guys who, especially if you watch him in his last fight, he kind of likes to wait on things and counter. And that can be effective, but when you're dealing with a power striker like Buckley, I don't think that Buckley's going to respect the space, and I think that Buckley walks away with the knockout in the first or second round here. Here's the fight that I personally think should be the co-main event. Li Jingliang, the Leech, versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Santiago Ponzinibbio is he's the dark horse at 170 pounds. He's like 28-3. He's weird too because he's very densely built, but he uses a lot of lateral movement to throw guys off. I think that Ponzinibbio is going to come back out and get a win. I don't even know how many. He's won like 11 or 12 fights in a row or some shit like that, if I'm not mistaken. Most recently beat, I think it was Neil Magny. So Santiago Ponzinibbio is no joke. I think this is going to be a very frustrating fight for Li Jingliang, who likes to turn things into a bit of a brawl sometimes. And I think the movement is going to frustrate Li Jingliang, and it's going to allow Santiago Ponzinibbio to set some traps and capitalize. I think that you might see a little bit of a boring first round where Santiago is, like I said, using a lot of lateral movement and stuff to throw the Leech off and to kind of confuse him. And then he'll start pouring it on strong in the second and third round. And I think he'll pick up a win in this fight. He might get the finish, but Santiago's a veteran man. He's patient. He's got a really frustrating style to deal with. And like I said, he's densely built, so you almost expect him to sit down on his power, but he moves a lot, man, and he's throw some volume at you. He's very well-rounded. And like I said, one of the more dangerous guys at 170 and probably one of the more underrated guys at welterweight as well. Next, we got Matt Brown versus Carlos Conde. This is obviously a fight between two guys who are a little bit past their prime, but still legends. I'm still excited for it. I think Matt Brown is going to be more of that brawling mentality, whereas I think Carlos Conde gets this one done because he's going to go out and finesse Brown a little bit. I think it's an exciting fight. I think there are going to be moments where Matt Brown finds success in this. It's not like Condit's going to... I mean, he could. I don't know. It's fighting. But I personally think that Matt Brown will find moments of success. But overall, you'll just see a fluidity to the combinations and the striking that Carlos Condit will string his strikes together more smoothly and with more efficiency than Matt Brown will. And I think over the course of 3 rounds, that's going to get Carlos Condit the win in this fight. And then the main event between Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar. I'll tell you what, guys. I know Max Holloway is championship caliber and all that. I personally thought he won his last fight against Alexander Volkanovski, especially getting his knockdowns in the first and second round. Calvin Kattar started off a little bit slow against Jeremy Stephens and Zabit. And I think Calvin Kattar really struggles when you make it. You have to be very well rounded. You have to go to the body, you have to go to the legs, and you have to go to the head, and that's what Max Holloway does very well. So I think the key for Max Holloway in this fight is to keep the pressure on Calvin Kattar and never let him find his range and never let him get in a rhythm. If Calvin Kattar starts establishing the jab and you start seeing him connecting with Max once Calvin Kattar understands the range This is a dangerous fight for Max Holloway. Dangerous. I think Calvin Kattar has the best boxing in the division. It's also just like a lot of guys box and you can tell, like when they throw for power or when they throw their hands, they'll like throw a power shot to try to get the knockout. Not Calvin Kattar, man. Calvin Kattar will come through with an uppercut, lift your head up, and he'll put your head where he needs it for the follow through, and then he'll come over top with the right hand. He's constantly setting you up with his hands. I think he has the most elite boxing at 145, but the problem is that this isn't a boxing match, right? I like Holloway in this fight. I like him to win a 5-round decision. I think Calvin Kattar's a bad motherfucker. I think he's going to be hard to put away. But I think if Calvin wants to win this fight, he has to establish his range early. He has to get the jab going because Max isn't the type of guy. It's not going to be like Jeremy Stevens, right? It's not going to be like Jeremy had that great first round against Calvin Kattar and then all of a sudden just like fell off. If Max finds his rhythm and if he gets into a rhythm, it's going to be very, very, very hard to break him back out of it. I think Calvin Kattar could potentially knock Max Holloway out if he gets into it, if he finds his range and everything. But all in all, I like Max in this fight, but don't get it twisted. If Kattar starts setting the hands up, this is a dangerous fight for Max Holloway, and you might see Max Holloway knocked out for the first time in his entire career. But I'm picking Holloway. I'm just saying that Calvin Kattar is incredibly dangerous. But anyway, that's what I got. Let me know who you guys are picking in the comments, and yeah, let's finally get these fucking fights underway.